opportunity to share. And it's been an amazing 1 year. Actually, Matthew, can you maybe start the PowerPoint? Yeah. So yeah, as Brother Ed mentioned, we were away for 1 year with the family. It was initially supposed to be 6 months, but there was so much that was happening, and we managed to extend it to 1 year. So what I'm going to spend today and with my family is go through what we did on some places, and also I'm going to give a message a bit about what does the Bible say about helping others and especially the needy. So just to start off with, yeah, so that picture is our family in Georgia. It was on top of a mountain. It almost felt like you were in Antarctica because it was like ice or snow, both sides that you looked at. Yeah, if you can. So this is basically the map of the world. Just going to show you where we went in this 1 year. So if you keep going, yeah. So we left Australia. We went to Singapore, met some Christian friends there before spending some time in Cambodia. We did about a month in Cambodia before going to Vietnam, and then from there we went on to where we spent quite a lot of our time between Armenia and also Georgia. So we were probably spending about a month in Armenia and then 2 or 3 weeks in Georgia and vice versa. And while we were there and doing some work there, we managed to have a side trip to Moldova and also Romania before coming back to Australia. So that's sort of shows where we've been. I'm only going to focus about some of the work we did in Cambodia, Armenia, and also in Moldova. So just starting with Cambodia, give a bit of a background. It's, as most of you might know, it's not almost 95% Buddhist country. So there is some Christians there, about 3 to 5%. Has a population of 15 million, life expectancy of 60 years. Quite a high poverty level. Officially says 20%, but if you spend some time there, it seems to me more like 50% with the amount of poverty that there is. But I think the worst thing about Cambodia is they went through this horrific genocide. I don't know how many of you know, with Pol Pot, where they massacred millions, I don't know, a couple of million. And it was very brutal. I mean, it's such that when you go to Phnom Penh, the highlights to see is the Genocide Museum and Killing Field. So when people go there for the first 2 days, most people as tourists, the first thing that they go and see is those two things. And I think this has left a very, very, it's impacted the people, especially the young generation even now. They're just, they seem like a crushed people. They're very, they don't have self-confidence, and there's a lot of other bad things that happens in that country. They had wars with Vietnam. The capital is Phnom Penh, where we're actually based. But it's more famous for the Angkor Wat in Siem Reap. That was actually the first picture. So that's one of their most famous tourist destination, and also the factory garments with a lot of unfair work conditions where they do a lot of hard labor. And you see this a lot there, where in trucks they're taking all the workers, and they're really poorly treated, and almost every once a week you hear of 1 or 2 that gets has a bad accident, and a number of them die in the car just because they just so many of them into these big trucks, and you see them just going everywhere. So they're famous for that too. So there's a lot of I guess work to be done there. Now, what we do there, we 2 years ago we set up a hostel and tour company with the help of a mission group here called Sydney Hosanna. They're a Korean-based Christian organization, and they've been working in Cambodia for quite a long time, about 10 years, doing a lot of ministry, trying to have Christian teachers, and also setting up a school. So they also set up this group called BAM, which is a business as mission group. And a good friend of mine, who's the one of the people in charge there, really liked what we had done in Armenia and Cambodia, so he recommended for us to go and do the same thing in Cambodia. So we set up a hostel there with their help, and also, so the picture on the bottom is some of the people from the Sydney Hosanna. The picture above is our staff in Cambodia. But the main thing is try to give people an opportunity to have jobs, in a fair environment, and caring environment. And the main focus is trying to bring them to Christ. So that's Sydney Hosanna's #1 mission. And one way is to do it through businesses where we can hire people and also, talk to them, and by showing a lot of care. So we've been quite fortunate because even though 95% are Buddhist, 2 of our staff were Christians. We do manage. So our manager, Somat on the right, and the second one, Kuntia, they're Christians. And we actually, Sydney Hosanna has a missionary there based full-time in the hostel, and spends time with staff trying to care for them, and also try to listen to their issues and help them. And so a lot of our time spent there was to train the staff. And he did a lot of training with general business training but empowering them to take on more responsibility. And we have a lot of good stories about how some of them couldn't speak English. Now they're speaking English. They went from a housekeeper to a receptionist, and trying to make them grow in their life and give them confidence in trying to manage a family and have, So there's a lot of challenges there, but I have to say, with God's grace, that there's a lot of good stories as well. And I don't have time to go through a lot of them one by one, but there are some very good stories about how some of them accept Christ, or they get a lot more confident in what they do. And we spend time helping basically at the hostel as well. So yeah. I'm just going to touch on what Sydney Hosanna does, which we work with. One big thing that they've done in the provinces of Cambodia. This is a location, a village, about half an hour outside Phnom Penh. So they live in really bad conditions. I mean, they virtually live in little shacks. They have no food. They don't have clothes. I mean, so it's virtually on top of a sewer. So So you can keep going if you can. Yeah, so I mean, you see a lot of children there with almost nothing, and a lot of them only live on rice, or they just even sometimes catch fish and then sell the fish and keep the head and boil it and just drink that. And so it's quite difficult times, difficult situation they live in. So what Sydney Hosanna's done, they've actually set up a school, a Christian school in the middle of this village. And obviously it's free for all the children that want to go to, but obviously they teach them Christian. It's a Christian school. They go through obviously the Khmer curriculum, but they have a church there as well, and they give them clothes and uniforms. And so this is what Sydney Hosanna does, that we are now working with together. And I think some of this I probably have shared before. Okay. Yeah. So that's in Cambodia. Now in Armenia, as you know, we've been there for quite a number of years. This is Mount Ararat, which is actually in Turkey, but the best view of it is from Armenia. And if nobody has seen Mount Ararat, then I really recommend you to go and see it. This is where Noah's Ark landed. It's the biblical Mount Ararat. And once you see it, I think you think you've seen everything in the world, because I think it's a magnificent sight. So if you don't, So just to give a bit of background about Armenia as well. It is Armenian Apostolic. They're Christians. They are Christians, and they're known to be the first Christian nation in the world in 301 AD. But they are Orthodox and very, very religious. The number of actually born again Christians or Anglican is not that high. So they are very religious. Less than 3 million population, and this population keeps going down because of lack of work. It's a landlocked country with wars, still in war with Azerbaijan, which is quite volatile. So a lot of people leave to go and work in different countries, specifically to Russia. It is a very old country, and used to be a lot larger than what it was now, but most of it's now in Turkey and Iran. Life expectancy is 75 years, and also Armenians, as most of you might know, went through had a genocide over 100 years ago by Turkish, which the Armenians are trying very hard to get this recognized still. It is one of the ex-Soviet countries, and the capital is Yerevan. And yeah, just to say more about the war with Azerbaijan is on some areas that used to be Armenian territory for a long time, and 90% of people living there were Armenians. However, during the Soviet times, Stalin gave it to Azerbaijan, even though the people living in it were Armenians. And during that time, some Azerbaijanis, Turkish people moved in there, and then when the countries were breaking away, the people there were 75% still Armenian. They said, we want to join Armenia. Azerbaijan said no. So war broke out, and at the moment the area is actually in Azerbaijan officially, according to the United Nations. However, Armenians are controlling it from a military point of view, and Azerbaijan keeps wanting to take it back. They have a lot of oil and a lot of military, so they tried to do that in April last year, which is now known as a 4-day war. They attacked from every front, trying to take it back, but thank God in 4 days Russia intervened and put a ceasefire on, but there were quite a few casualties, and I have to say the way the country united in that 4 days was, I've never seen something like it, where everybody wanted to go to the front and fight, and everybody was collecting food. And yeah, they say with Armenians, whenever it's peaceful times, they all leave the country, but whenever a war starts, everyone has to go back to protect the little tiny part that we have. So can you move on? So what we did there in Armenia is we've set up the hostel and tour company from 10 years ago, and it was our 10th anniversary as well. And we also have the same hostel in Georgia. So we got together. So this is most of our staff there. And just to focus again, the hostel is Christian based. So like we have Bibles on the beds, and even in Cambodia, when we have Bibles in the bed, sometimes we get really bad reactions, especially from some guests, which say, you know, why do you have Bibles here? This is a Buddhist country. You should have a Buddhist book, and throw the Bibles out. And so we do face quite of things like this. Well, Armenia is different because it is a Christian nation. But it's 10 years. Again, our main focus has been to create jobs over there, and also with the prophets at Marrickville, we work with a number of different charity organizations, mainly Christian ones, in Armenia, which I'm going to just touch on. So yeah, so we work with Mission Armenia. They've been established about 20 years ago, and they initially were helping the refugees from the war with Azerbaijan from late 1980s, and now more recently with a lot of the refugees from Syria, who a lot of them are Armenians. They come to Armenia. So we help them financially. The next one is Armenian Christian Mission, which some of you know, based in Sydney. They do a lot of work from family support, where individuals here, and I know some people here as well, help them. They support families, but in an aim to try to bring them back on their feet so they can live themselves. And it's a Christian person going and distributing the funds, so they try to witness to them as well and bring them to Christ as well. They also do container ministry, where every few months or every 6 months fill up a container and send that to Armenia. And I know people here also help with that. And the next one is CMI, which again some of you know. It's Matthew Healer. They do a lot of work in Moldova, and also in Russia, and also in Armenia. And he's been here, Matthew's been here, and even spoken in our church. And also, I think one of our camps about 5-6 years ago, he was the speaker there as well. So we've been working with them for the last 10 years as well. And actually, Matthew's in Armenia right this minute as well. So we went to visit them, and we work with them as well. Now, I just want to focus on one thing that we did there, which was an amazing blessing to us. There's, as you know, when in these countries, you meet a lot of families that are very needy. And I think we decided to do a bit of a fundraising to help a few families. We're planning to help 2, but with the money, we managed to raise about $24,000 from our friends and families while we were there. And again, I want to thank people here as well that helped with that. We virtually tried to get some families out of the situation they were in to change their lives. The one family above, which actually they're in outskirts of Gyumri, and Gyumri is the second biggest city in Armenia. And actually, Brother Paul and Spiro, who were with me 5 years ago, we went there. We actually visited this family. So this is 5 years ago with Paul, and at the time the daughter was really, really sick, and so I think we actually got there quite on time to Spiro and Brother Paul helped. This is, but the thing is, because they're refugees, they're actually refugees from the war as well, and they live in containers, and they've been keep moving them from a building to a building, and we decided to try to get something for them that they can live permanently. So this is where they live now. They're actually not as bad as some other ones because they do have running water and electricity, but it's still they don't have like a shower or hot water or things like that. So what we did is we actually, with the money we raised, we purchased a building. I mean, this building doesn't look that nice, but it was actually in an area that we can renovate. So we purchased this building, and now with if you keep going. So so we purchased this building, and we added a bathroom and a kitchen, and also fixed the floor, the walls. So this is actually happening as we speak now. So it's been going for about 3 months, and it was amazing because last night at midnight, actually it was 12:30 at night, they rang us because we have a missionary that's helping with this renovation work, and they had just delivered them the kitchen, and so this picture is actually from last night that they sent us. So we put a kitchen and bought a fridge and some oven. So it's really changed their life. And one thing I have to say, a lot of these families that you see, especially the ones that are Christian, they're still happy. So I can't say all of them, but 80% of them are still grateful for what they get. And even where they were saying, this is still given to us by God, and we're happy here, and thank you so much. But when they've seen this one, they've just been, blown away. They just, I think she used to say, we were in mud, and we were out, and we kept saying to them, it's not us, it's God, God's done this. God's put on people's heart to help, and they are so grateful. And another good thing is, because we have a Christian person in Gyumri who actually helps with the purchasing of the sand, cement, paint, whatever. He obviously talks to them. So now her Jana and her daughter now go to his Bible studies in midweek. So it all sort of ties in together. Next one. Okay, now this is the other family which we haven't been able to unfortunately finalize our help with. They live in it's a shack. They're in much worse condition. They don't have water. They don't have sewer. They have electricity. They have no sewer. And if you look at their place, it's almost these things are more suitable for like a barn kind of a place. So and the people there have a lot of health issues as well, and so we're still working on trying to do something for them. While we were there, we tried to find an apartment for them, but we couldn't find anything suitable. So we're now trying to find something that with other family to buy somewhere and where we can build, and also by getting them involved in the building, they become more connected to it instead of just buying something and giving them. So this is still a work in progress. And we're still praying and seeing how we can help them. The next family was another family we've been supporting. She's a widow. I think her husband passed away about 5 years ago in an accident, in a work accident. His children are quite smart, so we're funding them for their education. But they actually live in a house, but their house roof has been sort of very bad condition, where every time in winter, water just comes down into their rooms and everywhere. So although they have a house, it was, water was leaking from everywhere. So with the money we raised, we went and basically replaced their roof and put a brand new roof on that. And again, they were very, very grateful. And for now, we're trying to get their children to finish university so they can move on. And the other family is another one we've had some funds to help, is just building a kitchen and a bathroom outside their house, and bringing water to them. So this is just another family. So just to touch base on this, before I ask Leoda to say a few words, this is that family in Gumri. Same one that the middle girl is Annie. Her name is Annie, which Brother Paul and Spiro saw as well at the time she was very sick, and she is still quite. She has a lot of health issues, but Leoda and Annie and the kids came up with a sort of a mini project called Never, and Never means, as we know, gift in Armenian. So I'm just going to ask Leoda to come and say a few words on this project.
Hello. Thank you. The middle person is Ani, and we've been pen pals for 4 or 5 years, so we're very close. And we're close in age as well, so we're very good friends. So when we went and visited them, we realised how talented they were and how, with a bit of help, they could do a lot. And they couldn't really support themselves, and I thought it would be very liberating, or it would help them if they could earn their own money as well. So we started a little business called Never. And next slide. So it's a souvenir business. So me and my sisters and mum, we started making souvenirs for them and creating jewelry and key rings, and we decided to teach them how to make it so they could do it themselves. Many trips we went and we taught them how to make it, and they caught on very quickly, and they were very talented in this area. So we taught them how to make it, and then we displayed it at Envoy, the hostel, and we've sold a lot. So it's really great, and they get to support themselves, and it's really exciting for them. Dad was talking about the war with Azerbaijan and how a lot of areas were affected. This is one of those areas. They're pretty close to the border. They're 3 kilometers away from the border, and so there's a lot of tension there. And while we were driving up to this town, there was a lot of tanks that we saw on our side, so it was quite scary going there. So this is what the kids have to live with there. And so we decided during Christmas we'd give them little packages, just to cheer them up a bit. And so in the packages were socks, chocolates and lollies, and a verse. And so we went over Christmas and we gave them these gifts. So
Good morning. Moldova's mine. So Moldova, we had an opportunity to go to Moldova for a few days. Primarily to see what CMI was doing. But just a little overview on Moldova. So again, they're Orthodox Christians. Similar to Armenia, they're about 3 million population. They're very similar in culture and history and everything. It's intertwined with Romania, and they're neighbors to Romania. Life expectancy, poverty level. These are official figures that you can find, but maybe the place that we visited, all of that 11% was there, because it seems much more than 11%. They're actually known as the poorest country in Europe. So it is the poorest European country. It is also an ex-Soviet country. Capital is called Chisinau, if I pronounce it properly. And they're known for their chocolates and wine. So that's it. They don't have much. It's a very simple, sort of rural life kind of country. This is actually in the rural area. It's a village called Zaneshti, where Matthew Hillier, his photo is up at the top there. He's actually presented at our church a few times, whoever remembers him from past. He's actually a Sydney-based guy, goes on a mission trip to Armenia, marries this Armenian girl who's actually based in England, then they pack up and go to Moldova and base themselves there, and that is their house. Not that building, but that one, yep. And they now have 2 kids, and they're just living there, and that there is their mission base. So they have a hall, they have a church, they have rooms for people who, like us, that are visiting can stay there, or there's other missionaries that are based there as well, some from Romania and some from other places. And they're doing brilliant work. Through donations, they've been able to buy that building in that same village. It is the only tall building in that village. The rest of it is just flat, and then there's this big building block. And they're renovating this thanks to donations of everybody and the efforts of other missionaries that go and help to renovate. And they're creating an aged care facility, medical center, teachers center, every level and every section, a little cafe actually in one corner. And those people there are missionaries from Germany. Actually, they drive all the way from Germany non-stop. It's actually crazy. They drive for about 4 days, I think it takes from Germany. 3 days? 2 days? They go non-stop. So they while one person is driving, the other person sleeps, and they just continue until they get there. And then they're German, so they work with German efficiency. They're up crack of dawn, and they get on site. They have their prayer time, and then they go on site, and then they're building construction until the end of the day. And they're amazing, and they do this out of their own time. They just take time off, and then they come and do this. And they're all tradespeople. So, and they bring their materials with them. So it's just it's fantastic work. CMI also does a soup kitchen, and they feed about 40 to 50 families. And we went on one of the runs, so we saw half of the people that they feed. So we saw about 20 odd families, but I've only put a couple of the photos up. This is the lady that lives in that same village. Her children, 2 or 3 of the children actually live in that village, but they don't go to visit. She's all there by herself. Nobody goes to visit her. So it's actually quite bizarre. But there's all these estranged family situations that they don't support each other and they don't care for each other. This is another one. This man, again, most of them are elderly and they're all on their own. We saw people who are paraplegic, is that right? Like can't move. And again, their children live in the village, but they don't go to help, so they're just all by themselves. It's terrible conditions. That guy has gangrene, and the doctor said that he has to cut his leg off, but he doesn't want to. And so the guy who actually takes the food every time, he's actually a trained nurse, and so he changes and takes care of him, and also delivers food as well. But so it's mind-boggling, the conditions of many of these families that we went to see. 2 stories on this one. You can see the lady in the hat and the guy that's sitting down. They're actually American missionaries. This is a family that never travels, typically. And what happens is Matthew Healy, when he was in US on one of his mission trips, he speaks at a conference or at the church, I can't remember exactly, and tells the congregation that they're aiming to create an aged care facility in Moldova. And so these are the Fergusons, and the guy actually is that's his profession. He works with aged care for the last 15, 20 years. He's the manager of an aged care facility, and he felt compelled that he's got to go and help. So they pick up their 4 kids and they move over, and these are school-age children, and then they just move over, and they're now actually, they've bought a house in Zrnești, and they're living in Moldova. They don't even speak the language, they're learning the language, and so this is a family that just felt compelled that their help is needed over there, and they're doing excellent work. They've already got 3 people in this aged care facility that are from those families that I was speaking about, that they found them in awful conditions. I'll tell you after the message, whoever's interested to hear more stories. And so we took them on a little walk, and we just shared some time together with those people in the aged care facility. And this is some of the other missionaries that are living there, and there's an orphanage that they're running, and they're also they're learning the language. They're trying to simulate and actually, live with the locals. That is the last slide, I think, and I just wanted to say that those few days in Moldova was absolutely amazing. The work that the missionaries are doing in CMI, and there's a video clip that they put together, and it's online through CMI. Is amazing work that they do. It's not only, it is actually helping and giving back to the community in a real way. They actually run the ambulance, not ambulance, the fire. They themselves are the fire. Thank you. and more. They actually give back to the community, not only in Zernesti, but the surrounding towns and villages as well. And it's just, God bless them. They're just doing wonderful work. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Annie. Thanks, Theoda. Okay, I just now want to basically bring the message based on this. Obviously, for us living away for a year, it's been, I have to say, it was an amazing blessing. Of course, we missed our friends and families here, and most importantly, our church family. But this trip virtually impacted us very largely. Especially with the kids. They saw how people lived. They interacted with the locals. They also saw missionaries, in Moldova, and on how that their other families are there as well, and what they do. And since we've been back, the kids are always still talking about it and about the time there, and want to go back to see them and help. But since we've come back, it feels like we've just gone back into this. I don't know how to say it, but it's very different. I mean, in this Western world, it's like a lot of people we're self-centered. We're just caring about ourselves, and wanting or not wanting it, it rubs on us as well, and we sort of become the same. Back to work, back to back to the normal routine, and where everything seems to be controlled for us and moving forward. I don't know how much of you watched the air crash investigation. Does anybody watch it? Or yeah, so we love it. We actually watched it as a family, and I think once we watched it just before catching a flight, which was not the best thing to do, But if you look at those, a lot of times, like the pilots, they have autopilot, and they just put it on autopilot and rely on it a lot. And if you notice, about 20-30% of the crashes happens because the pilots just thought the autopilot will do everything, and they just relax instead of taking control and trying to do something, and then the plane crashes. So I think in countries like here, we seem to go into autopilot and a lot just trusting ourselves and wanting things for ourselves. So, and I think after what this trip taught us, I just wanted to look at the Bible and say, okay, what does the Bible really say about helping others and helping the poor? And where I want to start with is from Romans 12, 6-8, where Apostle Paul, he says, we all have different gifts according to the grace given to us. If a man's gift is prophesying, let him use it in proportion to his faith. If it is serving, let him serve. If it is teaching, let him teach. If it is encouraging, let him encourage. If it is contributing to the needs of others, let him give generously. If it is leadership, let him govern diligently. If it is showing mercy, let him do it cheerfully. So I think this is clearly saying that we all have something to offer. We have something to offer from us. I mean, some of us could give our money, some of us give our time, some of us could spend time to pray, some of us do volunteer work, teach, visiting sick people, but we all have something to offer. And sometimes you might think that, okay, the more you give to others, then it's less for us, it's not good. Like, why should we give for others? And we're going to become poor. If I give more, you're going to get poorer. But I have to say, it is the total opposite to that. The more you give, the more you serve others, the more things for yourself will change. it will change in a way that more than you becoming more powerful or becoming richer. And I think this is something that it's actually biblically given, that's how it is. I mean, from Luke 6:38, it says, "Give and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use it, it will be measured to you." Now, again, I'm not talking about financially here. I'm not saying if you give financially, it's going to come back to you. It comes back to you in other ways. And according to the Bible, we are actually obliged. It's an obligation as a Christian to help others. And it's actually something that pleases God. When we help others, it pleases God. Through the service that we give to others, we give others the things that they don't have. And based on this, we actually find we find meaning and fulfillment in our own lives. Again, both the Old Testament and New Testament have a lot of examples of these. Again, I just want to touch on a few more. One is, again, Hebrews 13:16. "Do not neglect to do good and to share what you have, for such sacrifices are pleasing to God." So it clearly says it, that sharing and giving to others is pleasing to God. So if the scriptures are talking about it, then we know this is important for God, for us to help others. I'm going to read a few more verses just to support all this. Acts 2:44-45. "All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. What we have been blessed with by God, we should be a blessing for others." Proverbs 14:21. "It is a sin to despise one's neighbor, but blessed is the one who is kind to the needy." Another one, Luke 3:10-11. "And the crowds asked John the Baptist, 'What then should we do?' In reply, he said to them, 'Whoever has 2 coats must share with anyone who has none, and whoever has food must do likewise.'" And one last one from 1 John 3:17. "If anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth." So a lot of people, say, we'll help you, we'll do this, but not many people actually go there and do it. Again, this doesn't have to be big. I mean, we all have to do from what our talents are or our gifts are. So it doesn't mean, this person has to give that much, and the other person has to that, and there could be a lot of different things. But I think it is very clearly when you go to the Bible that if the love of God is in us, then we should be helping others. It's just mandatory. And not only that, we should be looking in the interests of others. The things that interest us we should be interested in other people's interests as well. The thing is, if the things we have and we just, hold on tight to it, then, God, our hands are not open, so God cannot see our hands and give more. Again, I'm not talking financially, but in everything. But if you have your hands open, then you're opening your hands to God as well. So just about the interest part, I just want to have a verse as well on that. It's Philippians 2:4, where it says, "Let each of you look not only to his own interest, but also to the interest of others." So again, it's very clear there. Now, okay, so I just was gonna. So basically, the Bible and God calls us not to live a hard-hearted and self-centered lives. We should not be self-centered. And I think in countries like the Western countries, it's so hard because they're just the whole society takes us to that. Like everybody wants more, and The thing is, if we have a house, we have food, we have heating at winter and we have cooling at summer, then really we have everything that to live in this to live in this world. So anything after that, it's to me it's extra, and we should be able to give. I'm going to now read a verse that says that if when you do things for others, you're actually doing it for Christ. So when you're helping others, you're actually doing this for Christ. Now, the part that shows this is Matthew 25:35-40. I'm just going to read it. So, for I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? And the king will answer them, truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these of my brothers, you did it to me. So I think this clearly says that if we're helping others, we're doing others, we're actually doing this for Christ. And I'll tell you something: the more you give, the less you're going to be trying to go after positions of having more and trying to become more powerful and all that. So the more you give, it's going to help you not to be self-centered. Again, I just want to focus again to say that everybody has to do based on what they can. It's not there's no measure to it, and I think this is very clear in the Bible that Jesus actually said this in Luke 21:1-4. As Jesus looked up, he saw the rich putting their gifts into the temple treasury. He also saw a poor widow put in 2 very small copper coins. Truly I tell you, he said, this poor widow has put in more than all the others. All these people gave their gifts out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in all she had to live. So again, it's not a how much or what, it's all based on what you have and what you can do. Now I'm going to talk a bit about faith, and where faith without works is no faith at all. Now I know we all saved by faith, and that's nobody's disputing that. But there's clearly the Bible also talks about how faith without works is no faith at all. Now just to back that up from the Bible, I'm going to read James 2:14-17, where it says, what good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, be warmed and filled, without giving them the things needy for the body, what good is it then? So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. Now, I need to explain this more, right? Because it is, we all know we're saved by faith. But the thing is, once we get saved, if we don't have the works coming with it, then our life is supposed to change. After we become Christian, we're supposed to change. We're supposed to be, spiritually dead, and then, we're spiritually alive. So this natural thing about helping and doing things, it should come naturally from the spirit. As our lives transform, we want to help. We want to do more. And again, the Bible clearly says this. Again, the works that we do, it doesn't make us righteous before God. Please don't get me wrong. But it's just like a natural flow, like how water comes out of a spring. It should just naturally come out of us when we become a Christian. And I think the way we live in this world pushes us, because obviously we're living in a fallen world. It sort of pushes us on the other direction, and we need to try to break away from that and try to and do works and help others. And one key thing is that we got to do this with the right motive. I think this is a very sensitive one. For example, even with us, I mean, the Bible says like, when you help, you got to do it quietly, and don't make it, as, oh yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And again, that's very clear in the Bible from Matthew 6:1-2. It says, "Be careful not to do your acts of righteousness before men, to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in synagogues and on the streets, to be honored by men. I tell you the truth, they have received their reward in full." So I know it's a very, it's clear there, but I think the main message here is your motive. I mean, I have to be honest with you, like with the envoy in Armenia, a lot of our staff, until we went there, we didn't even tell them that, look, we're helping this other. They didn't even know that just around the corner there's families that we're helping and giving money until this time. But we did tell them this time. We did tell the management, and then after that to the staff. But we made sure it's done in the right motive, because that sort of made them aware of, oh wow, okay. And it's amazing, even though they're not earning much, or they started to say, oh, well, like we should really do something too. So they said, why don't we like go and, like, okay, maybe financially we can help, but how about we just get a group and we just all go there and help and clean up their backyard, or do some cleaning work or whatever. So it actually encouraged them. So I have to say, we personally, even me and Annie, we always are in challenge with this. How much do you say? How much you don't say? You don't want to become, the center and say, oh yeah, look. But I think as long as your motive is the right, and if you're in tune on, then I think it's fine to at least show. But we do have to be, our motive has to be right, and should not be trying to put ourselves up. I think that's the key. We have to always make it clear that, even to our staff, we always make it clear that everything here is not from us. Okay, like we have done nothing really. I mean, it's all by God's grace that enabled us to give us to do this. It's not us, and I think that is something we always try to reiterate. And I think whatever God's given, God can take away as well. So I think it is very, very important, especially for what we do, that no glory should be to us and what we do. It's all God's given it. It's God's allowed for other people to be able to help with the funding. God's allowed to these people to come and work with us to be able to then help others. So it's not from us at all. We are in this world for something, otherwise we wouldn't be. And God's given us gifts, and I think the main thing is to use those gifts as God wants it. One more thing I want to touch about is exploitation. When you help like this, you're bound to get we were quite naive 10, 12 years ago when we first went to Armenia and even Cambodia, where people try to take advantage of you as well. They think, oh yeah, Westerner coming here, blah blah blah, and so they try to take money and basically just use it. Cambodia's same. So in this ways, we've become obviously a lot more streetwise, if you want to call it on that, and also we work with organizations that we know that their main purpose is to get people back on their feet so they can support themselves. Even with ACM, a family, after 2-3 years, if they get a son who can work and they get their education, they don't support them anymore. And I remember even 5 years ago with Brother Paul, when we went to one of the families, it was actually their last payment for the month, because after that it was stopped. And they were still very, very grateful. And I remember so it's very important to try to do things to bring people back on their feet, not to just give charity money where it's just going to go disappear. And I just want to go through some verses again that shows this. Obviously, we have an obligation to our family and people close by to help them. And Timothy 5:8 says that, where it says, anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. So this is saying that, yes, of course, we have to we have to, look after our family if they're needy and all that. But we're under no obligation to support the persons who are just lazy and they just want to, take advantage of your kind-heartedness. And where it says this is 2 Thessalonians 3, 10 to 12, where it says, "For even when we were with you, we gave you this rule: the one who is unwilling to work shall not eat. We hear that some among you are idle and disruptive. They are not busy, they are busybodies. Such people we command and urge in the Lord Jesus Christ to settle down and earn the food they eat." So we all have to still work, if they're going to be lazy and all that, that's we're not obliged to help them if they're not going to try to help themselves. Also, like for example, that family in Gumri, they're just so grateful, and the good thing was their own sons and friends did a lot of the labor work, and I think that's one of the reasons we've managed to go so far with the funds we've collected, because they're doing it themselves. They're working, 12, 14-hour days with the bricklaying and everything. So they're actually getting involved in it. One more thing as well, like I just want to say, when you go to places like Cambodia or Armenia, when we see all these needy families, sometimes you get overwhelmed. You just say, "Wow, there's so much, but how much can I do? Like, how much can we do, or how much can that person do?" But I always remember the story that you probably heard it, but I'll say it anyway, where a person's walking on the beach and there's all this fish that is that's been washed over on the shore, like 1 million fish, and they're all like flapping and basically going to die. And then this guy just picks up one and throws it in the water, and some other guy says, "What are you doing? Like there's millions here, like you're not going to make any difference here." And he just picks up one of them and throws it in the water and says, "It made a difference to this one." So I think we should always not get overwhelmed and just do what you can. Do what you can. If it's one family, two family, one friend, two whatever, it doesn't matter. And I think that's something that it's taken us a while to learn, that just pick up one and just do that one. Don't get overwhelmed by everything around you, because you will be overwhelmed. I mean, the amount of poverty and everything, you just get overwhelmed. Just in conclusion, to conclude everything, again, look, the biggest gift we can give others, especially non-Christians, is to give them, to tell them that they're a sinner, and for them to get saved, and they need to repent to get saved. I mean, that's the biggest gift we can give others. So nothing changes that. I mean, if we can. So that should be our number one goal. However, as Christians, I think we are obliged to do more than that, and to help others. And I think we all should look at ourselves and what talents do we have? We should what gifts do we have? And based on what we have, be generous to others and try to help others. And that way we will find really a meaning of, it will make a change in our own lives as well. And I have to say again, it is much, much harder in this country, in Australia. I mean, we are already we're guilty of it as well, because when you hear suddenly more material things becomes more important for you, and it's very hard to break it. And I keep thinking about that autopilot thing. We got to just take it out of autopilot. And I know we need to, we got to have, we got to do everything with God's will. But we do have to take a bit more control of, at least not let the world take us onto an autopilot. If it's any kind of autopilot, then it should be from God. Okay, thank you.